Food helps my mental health every day. Food helps everyone's mental health every meal.
Get inspired. Transform your life. Welcome to Best Interest Radio.
Hi everyone, just wanted to say thank you for listening to Best Interest Radio. It really means so much. It's my purpose to put out inspiring and educational content that will help you transform your life. Today is part one of a knowledge-packed episode with my friend Flo, and we discuss everything from what our food cravings mean to how important our microbiome is in our gut, and much more, so you're going to want to stick around. This being said, I wanted to talk about my favorite digestive enzyme company, Biooptimizers. I have tried so many on my journey to healing my gut and bringing it back to balance. This company is by far the best. They also make very high quality probiotics that are directed at helping improve our mental health called Cognibiotics, as well as an amazing enzyme that will help you digest gluten with ease called Gluten Guardian. So, if you're looking to try something natural, safe, and effective to assist your digestive system, check out the link in the description for a discount on Biooptimizers. Today on the podcast, we have Flo, and I think we're just going to go with the flow with our conversation because it's suiting to her name and it's also suiting for our discussion. Flo is a registered holistic nutritionist, and she's full of wisdom and the drive to share it with the world and help others. So, Flo, welcome to the show, and I just want you to maybe continue the introduction and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you. That's a beautiful introduction. I I wanted to have this conversation to make my ideas perceptible to others and talk about a new offer that I am developing, which I see as a portal for information gathering and action taking in our community. Um, I've designed it to truly meet people where they are at now and to complement whatever treatment they are currently using. Because I feel like mental health plan that focus solely on brain chemistry and conscious behavior is not enough. And
Yeah, we have to get to the roots.
yeah, we have to get on the many levels that are intertwined with mental health. And,
Absolutely.
mhm. So I envision more education on the interconnectedness of the mind, body, and spirit. And also more cooperation between healthcare providers, whether they have a holistic or allopathic background, which will create more unity and accessibility to a really more wholesome mental health care.
That's amazing. So what got you started into this health journey? I saw in your post today that you have been researching nutrition since you were 15. And
Yeah.
not many people start that age. People at that age are usually eating whatever and they don't care about their health. So what sparked that for you?
Well, at that age, I went into that. I didn't really care and I didn't really know. So I put in my body what I felt like putting in my body. But I was 15, right? So I was right at the peak of puberty. So the weight gain, like I was so much more susceptible to weight gain, and I did gain weight. So I was like really surprised by how fast I did gain weight, and that made me reflect on what I had been eating, and it didn't take me much to realize that what I had been eating was very sugary, and that just put me on the train of wanting to stop that weight gain to continue and grow into womanhood with a body that I was comfortable in. So I started to research after school and on weekends, and I started implementing what I was learning every weekend. Every weekend, I was trying a new recipe. That's how I started. And I also started to exercise and implement notions of sport nutrition. So basically the timing of eating and the macronutrients to eat before and after. So that's how I started. And 10 years later, I have been to 3 different schools to learn nutrition, and I have made mental health my direction, because this is what I see being the more impactful way that I can use and share my knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Food and nutrition impact our mental health big time. And as you know, um, I was diagnosed with multiple, I guess, mental illnesses sort of under one umbrella. And I was able to get off all of my medications. And I did that through diet, exercise, taking care of all my needs, living through a purpose. And we'll get more into that in a bit, but I just want to emphasize on the fact of how important nutrition is with food and the gut brain connection, and
Yeah.
how, and also, I mean, that really is getting to the source. You mentioned at the beginning, like not just focusing on our brain chemistry and the cognitive aspect of mental health, but getting deeper than that, which is focusing on like what goes in our bellies.
Hmm.
But it goes even deeper than that. I mean, I found my own spirituality, uh, and I think that's all interconnected. You know, the energy of things like deeper than food. I mean, our bodies are temporary. Um, if food can help us cultivate, more love in our spirit and more connection, more gratitude, more joy, then that's great. But ultimately, food's not gonna be the answer to our spirit. We have to go to that route. And I was only able to get off of those medications because I also focus on that aspect. And for those who aren't spiritual, I mean, they would just consider it a deep cognitive healing, I guess. Like you heal of your stored traumas in your memory. So that's what other people will consider it as. But I believe it's deeper than that. And those beliefs help me bring me to where I am today, and beliefs are really important to me. But yeah, I mean, there's so many levels to it. We're such diverse humans. We're such diverse beings, and there's so much to all this, and nutrition and diet and exercise can be so overwhelming and so confusing for people.
Mm.
And it's become my purpose to help people feel empowered with what they eat and how they feel in their body and the choices that they make. Um, there's people that thrive on different diets. There's people that thrive on carnivore diets. There's people that thrive on vegan diets. Um, there's a lot that goes into that. And there's a lot of reasons why that is. But and maybe we'll get into that as well. But yeah, like the long story short, the spiritual and the mental connection to how we feel, how we live, how we behave, how we eat is like so profound.
Mm.
So did that obviously food obviously helped you with your mental health, I would assume, if you're that interested in it, or do you just observe others and you feel compelled to help them?
Um, yeah, while food helps my mental health every day, food helps everyone's mental health every meal. If it's a proper food for their physiology, which
Yeah.
is unique to every individual, which is why people thrive on different diets. Um, I haven't gone through mental illness per se myself, but I've been through very, very challenging experiences, and and the thing is that I have maintained my mental health through food, right? So that's a big indicator of the power of food to feel motivated and feel calm and grounded, which is what people um, notice in me often. They say, Flo, wow, you're so in your body. You're really grounded, and you're most of the time super calm. Yeah, and I think that this is due to all the hormonal and neurotransmitter part of the brain. But mostly what I have come to realize is that it's just a connection to the body. So just maintaining this connection to the body really, really helps feeling grounded and feeling calm and feeling more stable in our mood. And just learning about the different systems that are intertwined in our body is one way that we can feel the connection to it.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, I'm a massage therapist, and of course, we learn about all the systems of the body, how they work with each other, how disease affects the body and reacts to it. And it really broadened my understanding of how the body works. And then when you understand how the body works, you sort of understand how you work a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of just the knowledge of that, of course, me doing body work with people, working on their bodies with my body, and hearing their health stories and hearing their health journeys really helped develop an awareness. And that's really key to a lot of things, which I always highlight on, is just developing self-awareness, noticing how you feel, noticing how different foods affect you, noticing why you choose certain foods and when you choose them. Like sometimes we choose certain things or we're feeling like craving certain things for a reason, and it's our body telling us. Our body will always tell us what we need if we listen. The problem with that, which we can talk about now, is this. I believe we have this like ancient primal thing within us, like which is called intuition, that tells us everything we need.
Yeah.
And somebody could say this is our primal instincts if you're not spiritual. If you're spiritual, somebody can say this is your spirit guiding you,
Mm-hmm.
to what you need.
Mm-hmm.
I say it's both. Because and the thing is, like I try to connect to that more and more every single day, because the more I've connected to that intuition, the more I've noticed positive results in my life. And that's actually how I got to where I am, how I lost 115 pounds and stuff, is listening to that whisper. That's the whisper that is really actually just screaming. Body telling you what you need. Those cravings get distorted in our modern age because we are just bombarded with what I call food porn everywhere. Advertisements showing these burgers and chocolate bars and sweets and candies and meals that are just processed totally outside of our nature. So when our body takes it in, it does not react well with it. We do not get a good, like, you can call it like a chemical reaction between our body and the external food that we're putting in it. Like, it just totally does not react well. And so and I always love using this example, and you'll relate to it because you're a woman. And when I found this out, it's just fascinating me. It still fascinates me.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, because it makes so much sense. So women, when they're nearing their cycle, those cravings that women experience are for a reason. Like women, they crave sweets, they crave food, they crave sugar, salt, fat. Like that's for a good reason. Like that's your intuition, your body's intuition, your primal instinct, your spirit is telling you that you need fat, you need carbs. But what does modern society do? We tend to grab the McDonald's French fries, or something along those lines. Doesn't always have to be that, but that is not nourishing you. It's just like it's an empty thing that it's really just causing more damage. Where in reality, you could have healthy fats. If you're vegan, it could be avocado with some chickpeas cooked in coconut oil, and some fruit for dessert or something like that. And if you eat meat, it could be a grass-fed steak and a potato, and those things will be what nourishes us. The problem is we essentially give away, I call it our freedom, to these foods, and we're giving our power away to these foods who suck us of our energy. They strip us of our ability to flourish and to be high functioning human beings, which we're all totally capable of. And so that I always think about that, and I take that philosophy and that concept and I apply it to other aspects of life, because if your intuition as a woman is telling you to do that, well, there's going to be my own intuition in my own individual life that's guiding me towards things. And so the more I can connect to that, I think the better it will be.
Yeah, I so agree. Intuition is a survival skill. It's a skill that you can develop. It's a skill that you must develop if you want to heal, if you want to change the way you experience life. Intuition is a skill to develop. Um, and when you are in a journey towards health, you have to not dismiss your impressions, because just as you said, if you have the impression that you really want to eat fat, it's because your body at this time needs more fat. And what I help people find out is what is under their cravings. So if they find themselves always craving sweets, it can be because they are lacking some vitamins and minerals that are usually present in high carbohydrate foods. And I see a lot of people. Well, it's very common that people lack B vitamins, for example, especially people with mental health problems. B vitamins are a huge common underlying nutritional imbalance. And B vitamins are found in grains and whole grains mostly. So it's normal that those people experience a craving for whatever, like pasta and cereal and stuff. But if they don't choose whole grain, they won't get the vitamins and the minerals that they at a cellular level they need. Therefore, they will keep eating and they will keep feeling unsatisfied and not nourished. So they will keep having this craving and experiencing the imbalances that come with the foods that are not providing micronutrients that they need.
Yeah. So you're saying if somebody is craving um, pasta and flour all the time and bread, that they're just getting the wrong type of bread. They should be getting the whole grain. So what would you say that somebody should have if that's what they're going through? What kind of grains would they have to go for if they were to go to the store?
Any whole grains, really. Millet is a good one. Barley is a good one. Quinoa is a good one. But really, what I would suggest to people is to be really aware of what they crave and ask a holistic nutritionist or do research on what it could mean. What could mean a craving for sweets? What could mean a craving for salt? What could mean a craving for fat? There are good indicators, but you need to find the whole foods that provide those nutrients.
So you gave us a good example of what would happen if we crave sugar. Do you have an example of what would happen if we crave salt?
What happened if yeah, commonly people who crave salt are experiencing an underlying imbalance of adrenal glands. So they might have overwhelmed adrenal glands, which is really common if you are very stressed out.
Okay, so they need to get their adrenal glands sort of looked at, and they could do that naturally before it gets to a point where they need medical intervention.
Absolutely.
By
Yeah. You need
yeah,
to
but
learn what foods are nourishing for the adrenal glands.
yes, yeah, and also, of course, taking away some stressors in their life, and
Yeah.
doing some mindfulness meditation, relaxing, having a bubble bath, going for a massage, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. What would an example of somebody who craves fat? What is their body telling them that they need?
Their body could be telling them that, um, well, their brain could be telling them that it doesn't have enough building blocks to function optimally. Um, yeah, it could be telling them, well, that like some if you crave something, it's because you're missing it, right? So
Yeah.
it's basically saying you're missing it. And the reason why people could be missing some fats, it's because they're not absorbing it well, or because they've been eating the wrong types of fats. But for example, if we talk about common things that I see in my practice, common digestive woes that I see is having an overwhelmed liver. And the liver, one of its main function is to emulsify fats so that the fat can be absorbed. So if you have an overwhelmed liver, you will most likely not produce enough of the bile that is necessary for emulsifying the fats. So the absorption of fat will not be complete. So you will be missing the essential fatty acids that that your brain needs to build its structure. And the body knows, the body send signals to the brain to basically signals us what to eat and what yeah, the cravings are signs that we should trust.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that information. Thank you for sharing. And I'll add to that. I mean, some examples just for the listener to know for themselves. Some examples of some bad fats is really anything fried.
Hmm.
So no matter what oil it is, if it's overheated, like fry, like if you're deep frying stuff in it, it's that oxidizing the fat. It becomes rancid in the that will cause oxidative stress in our body. Um, but even like all the organic stuff, you'll see organic chips with organic oil. That's all great and all. Sure, there's less pesticides in it, but it's still fried and it'll still cause oxidative stress in the body. So, what do we want? Is we want more fats like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, um, fish oil from wild caught, usually smaller fish, so anchovies, mackerel, uh, herring, sardines, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um,
What I
yeah, just
suggest to people is eating more seeds, including seeds, including hemp seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds. Those are the ones who will nourish you the most in terms of fats and also proteins and essential amino acids that you need for all kinds of functions.
absolutely, yeah. And just to touch base on that, I mean, if you tell somebody to eat more seeds, through my own journey, I started off, I was eating anything. I ate like crap, like a little bit of everything. And then I was vegetarian for a bit, which is when I cut out processed foods. I cut out eating out a lot. So I cut out a lot of fried foods, even though I still ate chips and stuff. But because I cut out a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods, a lot of just garbage, a lot of bread and stuff I was eating, it really just, and empty calories, I call it, just foods with no nutrients. Like if you go to Costco and get a pizza, like that's just going right through you and causing damage in the process. You're not getting any benefit from it.
Basically.
Yeah, so I mean, because you can make a pizza at home that's filled with nutrients. But anyway, so all these foods I was eating just was lack of nutrients. And then I felt inclined to go vegan. And then I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about my journey. Maybe I will a little bit since we're on the subject. So back before I lost 115 pounds, that was 3 years ago, I had a sort of a spiritual awakening. And I realized that if I kept continuing the way I was, eating the same things, thinking the same thoughts, doing the same things, drinking, smoking, procrastinating, eating like crap, all this stuff, just living the way I was, I was destined for sickness and death. And at the same time, I saw that if I changed my life in the other direction and started eating well and exercising and thinking positively, changing my mindset, quitting alcohol, doing all these things, that my health conditions could be reversed, which included my mental illness. Just to talk a little bit about my health conditions for those who don't know, I had asthma, rosacea, intestinal permeability, you call it IBS or whatever, symptoms of type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance, eczema, psoriasis reactions and stuff, brain fog, fatigue, allergies, and probably a few other things. So you get the idea there. And anyways, I saw the possibility of those all being reversed if I changed my life. I was like a functional alcoholic, a little bit addicted to that. Smoked marijuana and too much of it. Smoked the occasional cigarette, but I was super addicted to those vapes. You ever see anybody who quits smoking and starts vaping, all of a sudden they're vaping like 24/7, like they're essentially smoking more than they did. That was me. And anyway, so because I saw the two spectrums, the dark and the light, I chose the light. I was like, screw that, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And my friend didn't even believe me at the time, but how I did that was like what I always talk about is changing my mindset. And that's why I'm currently working on an ebook that's all about how to lose 100 pounds, using only your mind. Because if you change your mind, you change your actions, which changes your results, which changes your life. So life is all about what you think. Your entire life is inside your mind. So if you can make your mind a happy place, you're going to have a really happy life. But how I got to where I am is by listening to that intuition that led me to one step, then to another, then to another, then to another. And even though I don't do things that my intuition led me to before, I believe they were meant for a reason, because I was intuitively guided to go on a vegetarian diet. And then that led me to be vegan, which really helped me develop such more conscious awareness as to what I was actually doing when I was eating animals. I developed such a more appreciation to animals and how we farm and everything. Like I to this day, I don't support factory farming, and there's the terrible practices that go on in the meat industry. So it really opened up my eyes, even though my dad taught me that all my life. He's vegetarian. Just me going through it myself really, I just developed such a compassion for life. And I realized how when I was eating meat, it was just so mindless. I wasn't even thinking about what I was eating. And I've realized now that it's so important to actually think about what you're eating and why you're eating it and being grateful for it. Because even just being grateful for it changes your physiology and how your body responds to it. Puts you in a more relaxed state. And when you're in a relaxed state, your body can actually do its job of digesting and extracting those nutrients. When we're stressed out eating on the go, we can't do that. Our body focuses on, running from the tiger rather than efficiently digesting the food you just ate. So that's all part of it. But anyways, it really helped me develop appreciation. Now, this is where I was getting at because you were talking about seeds before. I still remember what we were talking about. and yeah, we're talking about seeds, and I started losing weight. I lost probably about 50 pounds just being vegetarian and vegan, and I wasn't really working out very often, maybe like every week or two or something, but not 24/7 or whatever by all means. So just through diet alone, I lost about 50 pounds. But some things started to get better, like my allergies went away, my asthma, and I just obviously started to feel better because I cut out a lot of crap, processed foods, and all those things we talked about before. But some things were getting worse. My digestive system was getting worse. My rosacea flare-ups were getting worse because that was a very sensitive thing for me because rosacea, you can get like little pimples and stuff, and like it really affects your confidence, because your face is your identity. And I actually realized there's a deeper meaning behind the connection to that, but that's probably a topic for another podcast. But anyway, this started happening, and I realized I was eating a lot of grains, a lot of seeds, a lot of nuts, legumes, all those things. And through my research and through serendipity and synchronicities, I found out about Weston A. Price, who's a guy who traveled in the 40s. I don't know if you ever heard about him. Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, he goes and examines these tribes and villages, and
who hasn't been exposed to processed foods, basically.
Yeah, the tribes who hasn't been exposed to modern society. Mm-hmm. We haven't shipped them boxes of stuff, and so he noticed that they were really healthy, and they actually had really good bone structure too. And he noted that they were eating. They prized animal foods. They prized organ meats. Mm-hmm. And eating the whole animal, like nose to tail, using the bones for bone broth. Obviously, they would make clothing with the skin too and everything. And they would, if they had grains, they would sprout them and ferment them. They would eat like a lot of healthy fats, like from fish and stuff, and eggs. And these were all from like either pasture-raised animals or wild caught or wild hunted. And so one of my friends taught me about that, and then through as I furthered my research, I didn't want to eat meat at all or anything again. I just wanted to be vegan. Like I was just in that mind space. I was like, I don't want to eat meat. I can never eat an animal again. Like screw that. I didn't even eat honey. So that's how far I was. So I totally can relate to anybody with any diet because I went through this, but came time where enough was enough. I got to take care of this digestive system. The leaky gut, intestinal permeability is what it was, and I ended up following a leaky gut protocol. And so that basically involves cutting out a lot of all seeds, nuts, legumes, grains, wheat, all that stuff, and anything that would be irritating and inflammatory to the gut when it's in that sensitive state, which included nightshades, so eggplant, tomatoes, tomatoes, potatoes. I think those are the main ones. Oh, peppers. And what did that leave me with? Well, I could eat steamed veggies and stuff and squash, but it really just left me with meat. And I was like, I was feeling like crap and whatever. So I kind of like psyched myself up. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna go get a salmon. And I went and got like just a salmon, even though I don't really eat salmon, because I found out through through my own research, and I have a patient that comes and sees me. She's a scientist for the federal government of Canada, and she's like the pesticide lady. So she examines all the pesticides, how they affect the environment and how they affect the wildlife, and so on. And it's really, she just tells me it's like really not good. Like
Yeah.
the
Salmon is very
oceans.
fatty fish, and pesticides can be accumulated in the fat tissue.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, animals and humans, we accumulate nutrients and toxins in our fat. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the negative side to it. So, anyways, this is where I was getting at. So I started eating meat and stuff, and maybe to make a long story short, I ended up being a keto diet, and then that following this leaky gut protocol is what brought my body back to balance. So then all of a sudden I could start eating foods that I couldn't eat before again. So I could start having grains again because they weren't causing indigestion, discomfort, and all that stuff. But I when I would have them, I started sprouting all my seeds and stuff. And I noticed like a big difference when I did that, because for those who don't know, I mean, this is what Western A. Price talked about. They sprouted their grains and seeds and stuff. Well, first I'll say is seeds, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, those are all seeds. And they're plant babies. So nature defends itself biochemically. And it does that through these what people will call anti-nutrients, which aren't actually all bad. They are good for us in small doses, which is research is finding now. But we do consume in our society. We tend to do like way too much of things, and they end up being disruptive, like it was happening with me. So it'd have all these, just make me feel like crap, and I was having these autoimmune reactions and stuff. So anyways, when you sprout them, it inhibits the anti-nutrients, and it makes the nutrients more bioavailable to absorb. And I found that to be super effective. Now, and in case anybody's wondering who is vegan or whatever, like, why did you stop? Why didn't you just try doing that before you start eating meat? And well, the truth is I did. Like, I tried everything not to eat meat again. I sprouted, I limited, I did everything, and I eventually just ate meat. And when I ate meat, I got like a grass-fed steak from the local market, and I just felt so good. Like, my body was getting nutrients that it wasn't getting before, and it was just like a rush of energy I'll never forget. And I was like, okay, well, that kind of taught me.
With the keto diet?
Pardon?
With the keto diet?
With the keto diet?
That you felt the rush of energy?
No, just like literally from like one day I was vegan, and then I decided to have a salmon. I felt really good. And then I was like still vegan for a bit because I didn't really want to eat like land animals. And then I finally ate like a grass-fed steak, and it wasn't even it was just me having a steak, and I just felt really good. So yeah. Then it transitioned to keto. It just naturally ended up being like that. It wasn't for very long. Like, it was only, I don't know, a couple months at most. But like I said, doing that helped me to heal my gut. There's different ways for different people to do that. You don't have to. I don't think you have to eat meat to do that gut healing, but it certainly helped. Now, yeah. So what's your experience with that? I mean, do you recommend to people to try to sprout their seeds when they can?
Absolutely. Well, it depends where you are in your gut health journey, right? So if you want to recreate gut health, you need to begin with eliminating foods that fuel pathological bacteria And if you have a lot of irritation like you did, you need to avoid also the foods that um, creates that irritation. So some people won't need to eliminate grains or seeds at first because their irritation, their gut permeability is not really really bad. Um, and so yeah, so my protocol is elimination of foods that fuel pathological bacteria. So this is the highly refined carbohydrates and the simple sugars. Then you need to use natural remedies to kill pathological bacteria. And then you use measures directed towards supporting the gut lining. So rebuilding that intestinal wall that maybe has become a little or a lot leaky. And then you rebuild your beneficial intestinal bacteria, which to me, it sounds like your intuition that you wanted and needed to become vegetarian could have been because your body knew that your beneficial intestinal bacteria was starving because you weren't feeding yourself with enough fiber. But beneficial intestinal bacteria, they thrive with undigested carbs, which are the fiber in our food. So if you don't have enough fiber, you are starving your beneficial bacteria. And if you're eating processed, white flours, white rice, all those processed carbohydrates, you're actually also feeding the pathological bacteria and the parasites and the yeasts in your gut, which are the main contributors of your gut becoming leaky.
That
Um,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, that was actually what I was just about to ask because I was eating what somebody would say fiber. Oh, I'm eating fiber. I'm having this white roll with butter on it, but it's like, no, that's not gonna cut it. You need like real, like whole grains. You need like uh, chickpeas and just like nutrient dense food.
yeah, fiber will come with whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and fruits. They all contain fibers. Um, Meat won't really contain any, and butter and oils won't contain any. Seeds contain some. Um, the other thing that you mentioned with the fermentation is is absolutely yes, a recommendation that I would make because fermentation brings probiotics. Fermentation brings beneficial bacteria. So it helps rebuild the beneficial intestinal bacteria that you need to maintain the integrity of your gut wall and also to produce certain nutrients. They secrete nutrients that are then absorbed through the intestinal wall and go into our blood and nourish our cells, including in our brain.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. So, doing all of this to my gut and to our gut by what we just talked about is gonna affect your brain because there's this real research thing called the gut brain connection, and it's how I think what is it 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut.
I've seen 80. A
80
lot.
80%. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, our microbiome and our gut bacteria like really affects how we feel. It affects the hormones we produce. It affects not even just our hormone we produce, but how our body functions at a cellular level. It's gonna feed our mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells, and it's gonna provide them with the energy to make our organs flourish and work properly so that we can be high functioning. Whether it's using our brain to do creative, productive work or physical work at the gym or with the sport. So if someone, like, one of the things I also did was I started including probiotics, but I found that, and I don't know what your view is on this or what you've learned, but you don't really need to go buy expensive probiotics. You can just get away with like coconut kefir and stuff, or do you feel like you need to buy some probiotics?
No, coconut kefir is the most efficient and cheapest, like the best price versus quality way to get probiotics, I think.
Yeah,
Someone would be to buy probiotics. However, I wouldn't choose any type. I would use one that is kept in a refrigerator and that provides at least 50 billions um, bacteria. I can remember like the unit, whatever the unit is, 50 billion of that. So that's how you choose a good quality probiotic. So not necessarily take any. And yeah, coconut kefir is a good one too.
yeah, and they're not like a lifelong prescription either. I mean, they're really just to bring your body back to balance, and then
Yeah.
they can get away with literally just kefir every now and then. But also, you know, I've read some research and heard people talk about how when we eat like a lot of fiber or like high foods and foods that are high in cellulose and stuff, like when our body breaks that down, like it starts to ferment in our gut, and that's actually what creates the good bacteria in our guts. That's sort of what you were saying, because I know I actually have a book by Joel Green. It's well, now it's called, I think, the oh, I can't think of the name right now, but anyways, he talks about exactly that. He has different protocols where he includes like high amounts of high cellulose, high fibers foods, and literally just like end up fermenting in the gut to create the beneficial bacteria. So it'd be like, stuff like the bifidobacteria and also helping increase butyrate production in our gut, which is what protects our gut lining. And that's sort of all he does. He doesn't even believe in like taking probiotics. He literally just does that, and we can create our own bacteria as that way.
Yeah, yeah. What people need to know is that friendly bacteria feeds off fiber, and friendly bacteria keeps at bay the pathologic bacteria. So if you eat enough fiber, you're most likely will be feeding friendly bacteria that will produce nutrients that will feed your many systems, but including the brain. And if you don't, well, there might be an imbalance in the different types of bacteria that are present in your gut.
So there's a lot of talk about Candida. Do you want
hmm
to talk about that? What is Candida and what does that do to us?
Candida is a type of bacteria, is a yeast. It's a type of yeast fungus that is, yeah, it's an imbalance that is very common, that I see a lot in my practice. And it obviously thrives on sugar and refined carbohydrates. So people who are eating those things on a constant basis, they might have an overgrowth of candida, which so candida, what it does, it participates to this gut permeability thing. Yeah, it it creates this film on your gut lining, and permeability basically is the distance between your gut cells kind of increases. So the space between those cells is bigger, and that creates a door for things to pass through and go to the blood, that things that shouldn't go through usually.
Yeah. And then so your body attacks that, and then that's when you start to get these autoimmune responses because your body attacks itself, thinking
Yeah,
that.
exactly. This is exactly where it is linked to mental health and illness. So what we see here with the gut permeability that can start with candidiasis is that certain things pass through the intestinal wall and go into the blood. And once they are into the blood, the body's intelligence recognizes that they shouldn't be there. They're too big of a protein, or they are a pathogen. They are a bacteria that shouldn't be there, and they start producing chemicals to neutralize them. And those chemicals, it's normal that it's produced. It's our immune system that produce it. It's our system of defense. It's normal in fact that it's produced, but what's not normal, it's those things being there, and those things being there constantly, and this immune response to take place chronically. And those chemicals that are produced produce inflammation. And inflammation is actually the root cause of many, many, many mental health problems, including depression and Alzheimer. And it is very well documented that people who are experiencing those mental health issues have much higher markers for inflammation in their blood. So those people are suffering from chronic inflammation.
Yeah, I just recently read that they're calling Alzheimer's like type 3 diabetes. So, and they're linking the cause to, well, inflammation, like you said, and like, but the root sort of source is like high sugary, high processed foods that sort of develop inflammation, which everything just like progresses into what is Alzheimer's. And I know lots of people in my life who work like very closely, or even it could be their son or daughter, that when they have autism, and when they adopt an anti-inflammatory diet, their triggers and symptoms get a lot better. You
That's
know,
not surprising to me. Yeah, and
yeah.
that's beautiful. The link,
ADHD too. ADHD kids with like ADHD and stuff too. Like anti-inflammatory diets, like yeah.
yeah, learning difficulties, depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, everything that I just mentioned is linked to inflammation. And just to make it clear with the Alzheimer and type 3 diabetes theory, um, so you so you can explain that because when you have a high blood sugar level, you have lots of sugar in your blood. This blood should go into your cells, but not all of it can go into your cells because you have too much, right? So when the sugar stays in the blood, it spins off, because like that's how the molecule acts, and it creates damage on the blood vessels, and this damage creates inflammation. So that's the link.
Yeah.
So high blood sugar level creates inflammation because it creates damage in the blood vessels. And so you have all the sugar in your blood, and then you have all those markers for inflammation, those chemicals that are trying to regulate all this damage that it's being done. And those those inflammation chemicals, they reach the brain. And what we once taught, being the impermeable brain blood barrier, is actually permeable to certain things, including certain inflammatory chemicals. So those inflammatory chemicals that come into the blood vessels to regulate the damage from the sugar, they actually reach the brain and create damage there.
Yeah, and when I look at my life in retrospect, growing up, I mean, I always had mental health problems. Like, I was diagnosed with ADHD, ODD as a kid, and I would have a lot of behavioral problems. And, I didn't eat like crap, and not everybody knew about nutrition in the way we do now back then. And I wonder what it would have been like if I, adopted an anti-inflammatory diet that suited my body at a young age, like what my behavior and what my life would have been like.
Mm-hmm.
And because of course part of my journey, I mean, I was like severely depressed, like diagnosed with bipolar, ODD, or OCD, ADHD, and stuff, and I was medicated for it. And I talk about this in my podcast, episode 14. There, I did a Facebook Live with Robin Jardine, and I go a little bit more into detail about that. But long story short, I fit the criteria of that. Some people say, oh, maybe you're just misdiagnosed, but no, I was diagnosed by 3 different doctors, like for bipolar and all that stuff, and I fit the criteria of it. And then I changed my life, and I no longer fit the criteria. But I was only able to get off the medications when I took care of every aspect. Like, I wasn't just diet. Like, what we're talking about now, it's just one piece to the puzzle. So, and I talk about this in the other podcast, but I had to also surround myself with better people, let go, which meant letting go of toxic people, toxic environments, toxic habits, and living with a purpose, living with more of a meaning. Of course, I'm spiritual, so I like to believe in something greater than myself. I like to believe in a creator that created everything that I can connect to and that can help me create in my own life. I made sure, of course, we have to have our basic needs taken care of first, and having a sense of belonging, working towards all these things, and healing of my past traumas and stuff. But I have always wondered what it would have been like if I just changed my diet earlier. I mean, it wouldn't have been the end all cure all, but it would have played a part, would have made an impact to at least
Yeah,
some degree.
of course it would have, because so there are 3 things here that I see that we can play on the physical body, and then we can play on the energetic body, right? So the first one, and we all talked about, but it's just to like do a debriefing. The first one was correcting imbalances, correcting digestive woes. We talked a little bit about the liver. Okay, so the liver, the pancreas, the stomach. So when we see people with heartburns, see people with dysglycemia that we just talked about, very high blood sugar and like very fluctuating blood sugar, and also people with difficulty digesting fats. So those are the digestive woes that needs to be corrected, because they are affecting the health of the colon. And then there is creating a friendly, I call it a friendly gutsy environment. So it's creating an environment in your gut for good strains of bacteria that secrete compounds essential to your brain to thrive. And then there is correcting the imbalances that lead to a high set point of inflammation. So those would be the 3 things that really people need to keep in, expand their awareness and keep in their conscious mind when they are trying to manage mental health and learning disorders and neurological disease.
Yeah, because when you feel better, all of a sudden it's way easier to take care of the things that you need to do
Yeah.
to, like,
Mhm.
you're eating better, and all of a sudden you have more energy and you can think better, which makes it easier to go maybe do psychotherapy to heal sort of emotional traumas from the past. Or maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you do some sort of spiritual healing for that, or whatever. It's all about getting to the root of the trauma, facing it, and changing how you see it in order to really heal from it and set yourself free. It's easier to go to the gym when you're nourishing your body with these things. So it's sort of like the fundamental. And I like to I always talk about this too. It's really more about, because I've tried every diet and stuff, and I do listen to my intuition, and my diet sort of changes with the season, but really boils down to, well, I guess, self-awareness, and then noticing how food makes you feel, why you're eating, what you're eating, where your food comes from, how much you eat, how you're eating. Like, are you chewing fast? Are you chewing slow? Are you taking breaths in between bites? Are you eating in a rush state? Are you eating in a relaxed state? Just the really improving and healing your relationship with food and getting these fundamentals down is like the number one key thing before you even start to make any sort of radical changes in your diet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've seen it in my clients too. All of them who were able to even just to apply even just a couple of recommendations to improve their digestion and their gut health, they had they had a their look on life changed, and their ability to try new things improved. So even though their illness or their disease didn't completely went out of their experience, they were still experiencing some symptoms. They were in much better control of their life and their health journey and their mind. So yeah, very basic changes can go a very long way.
Well, food is a very powerful thing. I mean, we're human. We need food to survive. And food can either control us or we can control it. But I don't even like to say that one, like, as one controlling another, because we never really want to control anything or anybody. We just want to have a good relationship with it and dance with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we just want to have a connection and the presence to feel the sensations and the impressions that our body is giving us.
Absolutely. And the more we can tune into that, the better it will be for us.
Mhm. Well, it's like bringing to our conscious awareness that we're worthy to feeling in control, but knowing that we're not in control of everything, and knowing that we're just balance is not a set point to reach. Balance is a constant dance. Really.
Yes, there we go. Well put. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for part 2.